Alright, today we're going to be looking at something I've been working on. I've been trying to learn about capacitors and how they dissipate energy. But really, I would say this video is more about how to transfer over a schematic over to a breadboard. Okay? In any case, I just wanted it to be about education and not be about something that could like shock your cat or hurt another living being, because I would feel bad if that happened. So this is strictly about science, strictly about education, and as a disclaimer I will say, any form of energy can hurt you or kill you if you use it in the wrong manner. So people are weaker, let's say grandma, you walk up to her with her pacemaker with this thing, certainly it could hurt grandma, and it could, hurt an animal. So please don't use this thing in the wrong ways. Just remember that disclaimer. Alright, so it's a static poker and it's about, the dissipation of capacitors. So when we push the said little button, you hear this little ee, okay, and I toned this down quite a bit. See how there's only 6 capacitors, and that way when you touch this thing, certainly it will hurt. Yeah, like that really hurt, but other than that, it's very cool. And I can think of all kinds of wrong ways to use this device, but as I said, please use it for educational use. It's just a motivational factor. I mean, I could have built, let's say, an egg timer, but who the heck wants an egg timer, right? Yeah, boring. So, other than that, that's what it does, and then we're going to now look at your shopping list, and then we're going to look at the build, and I'm going to take it pretty slow because, really, for me, it's about this right here. It took me a long time to figure out how to transfer this stuff over to this stuff, and then even into another form that allows me to make my own circuit boards. So I think that's what I want to teach you, is how to transfer this knowledge over to this knowledge first. Then maybe we'll look at circuit boards and how to develop a circuit board. Alright, so that's the introduction to the said device. Now let's look at what you're going to need as far as parts are concerned. Alright, so let's look at this schematic real quick, and I color coded all the stuff that you're going to need. I ran out of colors when it came down to the switch, but I think I got everything set this time. This is the hardest part of the video, in the fact that there is so much to explain here. It's obscene, and it could take 10 to 12 minutes just dictating these values and how to shop for electronic parts. And anybody that's been in making this stuff will tell you that I think the hardest part is actually looking for all the parts that you need, whether it be at Radio Shack or Mouser or wherever you shop at. Alright, so let's look at this. Let's look at the main part that you're going to need, this thing. Okay, this is a 555 timer. Okay. Radio Shack, you can pick this up, 555CN timer IC. Notice it has CN after it. There's no CN after this one, but just know the 555 timer is pretty universal. Just look for the 555. The last 2 characters are sometimes whoever makes it, or it could be another value altogether, but really in this case there's only one variation of the 555. Okay, Radio Shack, it's like $2. Next, let's look at the blue one, because that one's harder to explain. The blue one is a transistor. Okay, there's 2 types of transistors. There's a PNP and an NPN. You want an NPN. Now, there's a few thousand variations of NPNs, and which one do you want? Okay, so we have a circuit that transmits from DC current to AC current. Okay, heat is involved when it comes down to this little thing right here, and what it does, it'll heat up if you hold the button too long. So anytime I see that happen, I'm like, well, I want beefier parts. So if any NPN transistor will work, I'm going to look for one that handles quite a bit of heat. This little wussy one right here, I've had these things go out within seconds half the time, so I don't use them when it comes down to storing energy in caps anymore. I use them when it comes down to like digital electronics. Alright, this one is a ep3s1, and that is this little guy right here. Okay. Now, thing to know, if you're going to use any NPN transistor, that one thing that you should look is at the pinouts. Notice there's a couple things that you look. So if you're looking at this one, you're looking at it straight on, holding it this way with this lip facing towards you. Okay. And you'll notice that there's a base, a collector, and emitter. Base is on 1 on this one. Well, if you were to hold this one, so the flat spot is that way, you'll notice that the base is in the center. This one's got the base on the outside. So make sure you know where the base, emitter, and collector is, because on the schematic, it reads like this: C, B, and E. Okay. I will tell you that the BD679, I don't think exists. I think the artist or whoever wrote this circuit out was screwing with us. So again, this one works really good. Trust me when I say really good. Okay, Radio Shack, a couple bucks. Okay, yellow ones. These are diodes. Okay, again in the schematic it says the 1N4007. Okay, and they won't sell those at Radio Shack, but you don't need 1N4007, and I had quite a bit of these laying around. These are 1N4004s. So just keep in mind, you know, you're looking for something that's rather small as far as diodes are concerned. These are to just block energy from going in the other direction. So I'll get into voltage multipliers and how they work, but any diode will work, but try to keep that back number pretty low and you should be good to go. Sweet. Alright, the orange dude is a transformer. This is a little audio transformer you can buy at Radio Shack. It looks kind of like that. Very cool. Not much talk about, that's the only one they had, but any audio transformer will work. I would keep it very small, however, because you don't want to use a lot of batteries. Okay. Next, caps. Okay, a little bit about caps, because that's what it was. It was about learning caps. So I'll share with you the knowledge that I've figured out so far about caps. Oh, where's that one cap? There's a little cap floating around here. Okay, well, I'll use this one for example. Okay, this barrel cap. Okay, this cap right here, it will allow energy to be stored, but it's very slow on the receiving end, so it'll drain real slow. Okay, I don't want that. And I'm keeping this down to a terminology anybody can understand too, so excuse me if I like braze over the science quite a bit, but you know, I want to capture the heart of American youth in this, and we'll get nerdier later on, but just know that this type of cap right here will, it's very slow on the drainage and very slow on the uptake. This one, a little bit faster, so this is a film cap. And last but not least, the ceramic cap. Okay, ceramic cap is by far the cap of choice. It will take in energy and spit out energy very quickly. And you know, you found these in the ceramic cap is kind of an older variation of a cap. You don't see these in electronics very often, but yeah, I can see why, because you know, if you have a few of these laying around inside a device and that device just got unplugged, please make sure that you let that device sit for a very long period of time before you actually play around with it, because these things will zap you when in multiplication values. Okay, well, those right there in the circuit are 10N 400 volts. Well, any capacitor will work for this, but remember, it has to be fast. So they're not going to have the 10N because that's not the level of measurement that we're using here in the land of Radio Shack or Mouser, or we're using 0.01 UFs, which is equal to 10N. Okay, again, the ceramic cap. Good to go. You'll need, now I'm only using 6 of these here and 1 over here. Over here, it doesn't matter about speed. So actually you can get away with using anything as far as the 10N concerned. I'm using the film cap on this area, and here's that one right there. Okay, but you would still look for the 0.01 UF. And when it came down to 100N, what would happen there? Well, you'd move the number forward 1, so it'd be 0.1 UF. Alright, sweet. Resistor values. Resistor values are very easy. They're indicated with a stripe on them. So you can see orange, orange, orange with a gold band. The gold band dictates the wattage or tolerance level. Ignore the gold band and just look for the first 3. Now this is a half watt and this one's a quarter watt. Again, that's not very important when it comes down to this circuit because it doesn't have a lot of oomph behind it this way. It's actually this way you have to be concerned. So once it leaves these 2 wires, then it gets a little hairy, and then you have to worry about voltage and how much voltage it can handle. So when the capacitor, when it says 400 volts, these are actually 500 volts. That's important. So the resistor values are a 33K resistor and a 1K resistor. Again, just look for the numbers, or orange, orange, orange for the 33K, and then for the other one, it's brown, black, red. Brown, black, red. Alright, last thing. In the land of Radio Shack, they don't have one of these, but it's a momentary switch. You can rob this from most electronics, or you're just looking for a momentary switch. They do have certain ones at Radio Shack, but this one's my favorite. What you're looking for is speed. So if you press this down, you can instantly let off of it and it unclicks. If it lags at all, like this one right here from SparkFun, if you let off of it and it has like even a 1/10 of a second lag time, don't use it. So these would be good for some application, but not this one. This one, good. Okay, I think that's everything. Cool. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but as I go on with the next video, we'll see. Oh yeah, you're gonna need breadboard, right? Now I would get 2 breadboards about this size. I just had the bigger one laying around, but it was unneeded. Why 2? I would keep the circuit separate from the DC to AC, just me, when you're first learning this stuff. That way you could take it apart and learn from it. So this is my DC, this is my AC side. So batteries. I have this laying around. This is a big pack of a 12 volt, but a 9 volt battery will work just fine. There we go. That ends your shopping list. Let's go on to the build in the next video. Alright, so now we're going to look at the information, transferring it from here to here. Now, notice that the letter value on these things, they have like these little tiny letters at the top, A through E, F through J, okay? And then they got these 2 rails. Well, actually these rails are a little bit different in the fact that there's a thin wire that goes all the way through these. So this dot is the same as this dot. They're all the same going on that way. And then the top one right here, so this would be my negative, this would be my positive. Again, that dot and that dot are the same because that wire runs all the way through. Now on these, the wire runs this way. So you could say 1J is equal to F1. Okay. Now, when you hit this little stripe in the center, the little stripe will separate the breadboard in half, and then over here it starts out something new. So 1E equals 1A. And then you get another stripe for the positive and negative. Blue is negative, red is positive. Alright. So now that we know that these are connected, and these are connected, and there's a gap between these separating this half from this half, we can start looking at how to transfer this information over to this. And that's why I said it's like a really cool mental game, and that's what is interesting to me in the fact that, you know, this stuff is kind of like playing chess and Tetris and Sudoku all at once. Good stuff. So that's the basics of a breadboard. Then now let's look at putting the information here.